Okay, so so we're looking at a race in Norway. I don't know what it is, where it is, but we have Caspar Fosser and Arling and some more Norwegians who are really good. So we're looking at the I think 19-20-year-old category. So I'm just gonna look through the course and then try figuring out what I would do, and then we'll look at what they did, which is run straight without mistakes. They do that a lot. Okay, so for number one, it's quite interesting. I don't know how fast the white forest is here, so it could be pretty fast. So you could probably take it like dead straight. Basically, cut over this hill, cross the trail, look for the giant marsh and the little cliff and a rock, and then run up the re-entrant to the top of the hill. Um, or, if the forest is a bit slower than trails, you might want to take the trail up maybe to the index contour and then contour along. So it's not too much extra distance, and it could pay off time-wise. For the long leg, basically just want to go straight. So I'd aim for this little cliff here and then just cut straight up and just like stay on the line. So here there's not too much. Here I don't know what you'd it's a little bit vague here, so you'd really have to pay attention to which features you're going for. So for example, I'd maybe aim for this clearing with the trail head, but basically from here I'd look for this patch of bare rock. Hopefully it should be obvious enough if it's on the map, and then the marsh, and then pick off these clearings, look for the rock should be pretty obvious, and then maybe the knoll, and then like take a bearing or keep going up and then take a bearing across this marsh over into this area, and you really need a good bearing here or you're gonna lose it. And look for the cairn or whatever, and then try and hit this rock, and then this clearing, so probably aim down a little bit, and then try finding these 4 rocks, and then into this marsh, and then hit it. So depending on how obvious all of this is, this could be either an easy or a not so easy leg. Number 3, just take a bearing down. Maybe aim a little bit off to the right so that at least you can see this cliff as you're going by it, but basically you're going to hit this, it's going to be super obvious, and you want to run by this pit or whatever, stone pit I think, and then nail it from a bearing, and you should see the control in the marsh. And then here you want to go straight again, basically dead straight. Look for this re-entrant, and then this what's it called, this spur, and trying to run through this area, kind of through by this like little narrow marsh or almost stream, over this little spur. See the rocks, and if you know where the rocks are, you can just keep going on a bearing, and then you should be able to see where it gets a little bit steeper or it deforms, and just aim for the marsh. If you've messed up your bearing here, you will basically screw up. So don't mess up your bearing, I guess. Number 5, you just want to again take a bearing here. You can't mess this up, and as long as you don't go downhill, just slightly uphill, aim for like this clearing. It should be there. If it's not, it sucks. And it'll just be very vague. And then aim for like the marsh. And basically, if you could hit the rocks, I think those are really good features to go off of, because when you hit a rock, there's only so many of them, and you really know that you're there. And then you go by this, yeah, and then just aim for this rock at the end, and should be just behind it. And now it gets a bit more technical, which is a little bit easier, at least for me. So here you have this out of bounds cliff, so you have to choose if you want to go right or left around it. basically the control is at the same elevation, so it doesn't really matter. If you go down, like you almost have to get around these cliffs too, so you can choose to go right or left. So if you go right, you're gonna have to drop down to this index contour, and by the time you get back, you're gonna have to do 5 meters of, or 5 contours of climb. So that's gonna be a decent amount of climb. If you stay on the top though, here you'll drop a bit here, you'll climb a little bit here, then you'll drop a bit. So I think I'd go left, just because there's going to be less climb and the distances are basically the same. So for more specifically, I'd cross here, like hit this knoll, and then just take a bearing aim for under this spur with the cliffs. This should be super obvious. Go right by it, aim for these 3 rocks with the knoll, go right by them. There's this really nice little slot canyon or whatever between 2 cliffs. If you could hit that, or just run by that, you'll know exactly where you are. You can look for this hill too. Come over this hilltop and watch for the cliffs. Now they're going to be facing the other direction, so basically try and hit this knoll and then just compass into the slight re-entrant here, and then you'll get around that. And then you got 1 hill here and then a second one, so just count those off, keep them to your left, then go over here, count the knoll, re-entrant, knoll, rock. Just make sure you don't end up like here and get really confused, because you could easily confuse this hill for that hill, or even this one, and really lose it. It would probably be better, instead of going straight here, just come by this cliff and then follow this re-entrant up. And then just stay to the right of this hill, look over for this hill, you should see that in the distance, come up by the left side of it, and then cross this little hill, and then just compass into it. So it should be pretty easy. Number 7, here you got, basically I just take a compass bearing, look for this cliff with the hill, and then just stay left of it, cross it here, go over this spur hill, go down the other side, look for this hill on your left, but stay to basically on this spur here, and then come around the left side, go right over or on the right side of this hill, just mostly on your compass. If you're staying on that, then all of the features should make sense. Here you want to go either up the trail or just straight up the hill, up the re-entrant but not too far along it, so cut off before or at the cliffs, and then hit the knoll, look for this on your right, you don't need to run to it. Look for this, aim for this clearing. Once you hit it, knoll, check off knoll, what's it called, marsh, rock, knoll, and then you could honestly, just to simplify this whole leg, you could aim for this big spur, then the re-entrant, and then aim for this, don't run all the way to this marsh, and then just take a bearing and aim for this big lake or whatever, and then just run around the edge of it into the control. But otherwise, the other details also really work if you want to know exactly where you are. That can get a little bit sloppy, like if you are running here, if you have a bad bearing, that's not a great idea, but like just checking this off is a good thing to do while you're going. It's not going to hurt if you can do it. Here, run over the hill, then so you can cut around these cliffs, but I'd probably just go from the right, just avoid them so that they don't slow you down. I don't know how bad they are. And then come in to here, straight, and then you want to go down, yeah, basically for this one you just want to go down, check off the features, so like knoll, hill, rock, and then really aim for these 2 knolls where the trail crosses. So you'll know when the trail crosses, and you should see the 2 knolls immediately. If you don't, you really messed up and you should do something. You can relocate, but it's not too hard if you're following your compass. Then you go straight by this knoll. You got a little hill here between these 2 marshes. Hopefully they're, yeah, you don't want to pass through them because you could lose some time. And then you come up the little spur here with the cliff, and then over, just read the hill and the knoll, and you should be good. For 11, you just want to stay up here, so aim for this hill, and then go through the marsh, stay up here, run by the edge of this, stay on your compass, stay up here, don't like get sucked off down here. Stay up here, basically aim for the knoll, and then cross across this, and just from the knoll keep a compass bearing until you hit the control. You can try reading some of these cliffs here, but I wouldn't waste too much time. If you could find this one, you'll, just keep going straight and hit it. Here I'd run to this hill, that's super obvious, and then keep it straight around the edge of the marsh to this boulder patch or whatever. The boulders here, the triangle, and then this rock, this hill, then hit this bend, come off straight, read this hill. Here I'd slow down, it's a little bit complicated. Read this hill, this rock, this cliff, and then from the rock and the cliff I'd keep a really good bearing. Try and aim for this hill. If you can find it, you just walk into the not walk, but just go right into the control. Here I'd go off a little bit to the right, hit this trail, get that extra speed or whatever. So basically hit the knoll, look for this giant marsh and this hill. Basically aim under this hill, and then come into this one, and it should be pretty easy. And you come over here, and then you just go basically straight. There's nothing too much to read here. If you hit this junction, you're too high, so you should cut it pretty low and see both of the trails pretty early on, and then just come into it. So that's just, if you've got a good compass, that should be easy. Here, just hit this cliff, come into the open cut section. Once you hit this other cliff, come straight into the control. Really easy. Here, just maybe come out here, just do a little bit of curve, or you could cut straight if this contour is not too much to climb, because you're gonna lose that elevation anyways. And just go straight into it, and then maybe walk into the control, because it gets pretty detailed around there. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 basically hilltops or knolls. So you just want to go in on a compass, and you should see it. It'll either be at the top or under the cliff. Then going to 16, probably come out to this trail, bomb down the trail, and then cut right where the line passes. I don't know if that's continuous there. It's a little bit confusing. I would have cut the line there. They cut it for the trail, but I don't know if it's continuous there. So you either have to cross here or there. A little bit bad that they don't show it, because it looks like the cliff definitely continues there. So I'd probably aim for this gap here. Otherwise, you could go for the other side. But yeah, I'd go for this gap here, and then just go straight, pop down over this, go under the cliff, hit the knoll. Now here you got a mess, but basically I'd run straight here, under these cliffs, onto this trail bend, follow the trail to the junction, take off, and then slowly count 1, 2 cliffs, rock, spur, re-entrant, and then you should be on the hill, and it'll be on the bottom of the cliff. So aim for the cliff, but look for the hill. And then here you just take a bearing, don't mess it up, because you could end up in places you don't want to be. If you see a clearing, you're too high. If you miss it because you're going too far down, then you'll have to hike, and it'll suck. So just really careful bearing here. Follow down the trail, hit the rock, look for the other rock, go down, hit the cliff, look for the rock, and then take the cliff it's at. Run down, hit this trail, follow the trail down, and then into the finish. Okay. So, now we're going to see the people who actually did the race, do the race, and see if any of my predictions would have been slightly correct or just completely off and wrong. That I would expect that. I think 15 speed is good, and I need to set it to a mass start. Okay, so yeah, so for number one, most people took the trail part way, and then got there, but the people who went dead straight also, just gonna scroll back a bit. It really showed that I'd say it's about the same because Kaspar Fosser basically tied with Lucas Lindstrom getting there, and Kaspar Fosser I think is a faster runner. So we'll see later on, but basically if Kaspar Fosser is a faster runner, then going straight would have definitely turned out to be faster. So we shall continue on to number two. So number two is the long leg, and it's a weird leg because there's basically nothing in it. So you're mostly doing a bearing. So everybody comes down, they hit the trail and come off the tip of it so that they know where they are. And then a lot of people run by the cairn, and then they keep going by some of the rocks, and mostly on just a bearing, and then they see the hill probably and hit it. Number three, there's really nothing to do. You just go downhill on a bearing. Same with number four. I guess just they check off that marsh, and then the two rocks right here, and then just continue in on a bearing, and it's pretty obvious as a marsh. Let's just bring that back. So then continuing on to five, they just go right. They go straight, and basically they see this marsh and then this patch of open, and probably read some of the rocks coming in, mostly sticking to the bearing. So now number 6 is the long leg with the route choice, and I didn't notice this trail, and it looks like about half of these boys took it, and it turned out to be faster, or pretty fast. Let's see, Lucas was right behind Kaspar Fosser, basically, like maybe 10 seconds. And then by the time they make it there, then Lucas has almost lost a minute. So it's definite. I think it's pretty safe to say that the trail was going up left is faster. Now I don't know. So only who's ELB? ELB Eric Langedal. Okay. So Eric, is it Eric? Eric, yeah. Eric, he took the second route I was talking about. And he started off with SD. SD is Sebastian Daland, I think. Daland. So Eric and Sebastian went at the same time. So we can see as we look how much faster or slower the trail option was. So they're coming in. Eric lost. Yeah, so basically going on the trail was the fastest. So trails are usually faster. Number 7's basically straight. I'm going to just restart everyone at 7 so that we can see how people did them. To number 8, yeah, honestly, this one looks pretty easy. Just really go straight. You should basically like Lucas Lindstrom here. No, it's not Lindstrom. What the hell? Lucas. We're just gonna call him Lucas Lilland. Lucas. Yeah, that was good. So Kaspar Fosser, he's running faster than everyone else. You can just see that because he just gets ahead, even when you start them at the same time. But basically, he hit the lake like right on the center, and then he just followed the edge of it, and then he didn't make it in too much earlier than Lucas. So yeah, he could have taken that a little bit from the right. Next one, basically straight. I'm gonna slow it down a bit because everyone's going really fast. I don't know if there's anything much to say about this one. Yeah, everyone came up from the top, Looks like Arling here went from the bottom, but it looked like it was a bit slower than everyone else. And then interestingly enough, for number 10, everyone came over to the right side here under the cliffs. So only Kaspar went dead straight, and H, who is that? Avard. We're gonna call him H. And then yeah, so but Kaspar really got there. If we start everyone at a mass start, I want to see if Kaspar was actually faster. So honestly, they're all about the same speed, and then Kaspar lost a little bit of time going down the steep section on the cliffs, but it basically panned out to be the same. So again, going straight is a really safe option, I think, especially in white Scandinavian forests, because even if it's not the optimal route, it's usually not going to be a lot worse than the optimal route. For example, if you run around on a trail or under those cliffs along the marsh. So to number 11, we got one person going under the cliffs, and most people went straight like I predicted. And I'm just gonna see how. Let's just see how fast the guy going under the cliffs was. So everybody basically goes straight, reads the hill, reads the knoll, just going straight on their bearing. JB, who's that? Jorgen. So Jorgen, and basically we see Kaspar pulling ahead again because he's a faster runner. But for example, with like Lucas and the others, they get there at the same time. So again, not a bad route going underneath. You know basically where you are the whole time, and it's not too hard to read. But going straight really is almost the safer option. It's a little bit more difficult to navigate, I think, but it's once you get good enough to go straight every time, then it's honestly a very, very safe option. Works in most of the cases. Yeah, everybody's going straight. They hit this going through the marsh, pretty open. Hit the trails, and then go straight, and then micro go over this hill into the control, and then to 13 they hit this trail. Yeah, and then continue off onto it and into the hill. So that basically here I thought people will go more straight, like Lucas and these guys. These guys are going straight, but it looks like I'm going to mass start. Kaspar goes comes in down from he goes back to the trail, and so do some other people. And you can really see that the people on the trail, they really pulled ahead. Kaspar pulled almost twice as far ahead as the others because he, I guess, runs faster. But the others also pulled ahead of the guys running through the forest. So that really goes to show, especially downhill, there's a trail not too far off, it's often worth taking it because you can really get down to like a 4-minute kilometer or even lower. It's not very hard. Here everybody takes the trail and they curve a lot on it to get around these cliffs. Makes sense because there's rocky ground here, so the trail is probably the fastest. It's gonna zoom out and then basically just continue straight here. Nothing too phenomenal. Most people go to this trail and then they come into it. So nothing too spectacular anymore. They're just coming into each control. Here following the trail, coming down and then into the cliffs. Here Kaspar made a little bit of a mistake, but that's the only little mistake he's done, so not a big issue. I don't know if he misread these two, and so for some he might have thought somehow he was on this side and crossed over to the other side, but with such a lead it didn't kill him. But if you do notice, he lost a lot of time there. Being a mass start, I think he loses let's see, he loses like almost a whole minute on everyone there, so I'd guess 40 seconds. But yeah, that's that. Very nice map, mostly downhill, very nice. So basically, the big thing to take away from this course that I found, I guess if you're in the open Scandinavian terrain, you take a nice big bearing, and basically that's it. And then for the, if there's a trail option, you take the trail option most of the time, rather than even going straight through crappier terrain, because the trail, you can really push on it, and especially if it's downhill. If it's downhill, there is almost no excuse not to take the trail. Okay, see you in the next video.